issues back to reality. Because we had lived with the illusion for a while in your previous administration in which you served as a cabinet secretary. So, for example, when it came to the oil subsidy, what you called a subsidy then, which was still just getting money from the Petroleum Development Levy, many oil marketers complained that they had not been paid. That yes, there would be a subsidy at the pump, and that was supposed to have been that the marketers would then get paid directly by the National Treasury. They were not getting paid by the National Treasury. So it was an illusion at the market, at the pump, but the reality is in that value chain, it wasn't the reality. When it comes also to the cost of goods, power, you've talked about power. There was a subsidy that had been imposed on the power prices, which was the money was not being paid to Kenya Power to cover for this. When the president formed a task force to look at why power bills were going up, and he announced that there would be a 30% reduction by a certain time, and that 30% reduction was not forthcoming, then a subsidy was introduced silently into the issue of power. And this is the other illusion that we were living in. And then reality hit. Power prices had to go up because the National Treasury was no longer promising Kenya Power that it was going to give them that subsidy. What do you respond to that?
I think the main issue is cushioning the people, particularly the vulnerable sections of our population. And that is one thing Uhuru was very sensitive about. When he left, you remember petrol was at about 159 shillings a litre. And the subsidies were meant to cushion the mwananchi. And it's through those subsidies that we're able to keep those prices from skyrocketing to over 200 when our bottom-up friends came in, then double VAT on fuel. So it might be true that maybe some payments are still pending or whatever, but the ultimate objective of cushioning Kenyans was achieved. And
but this is the issue, though.
Yes,
that it's an illusion. What it is, smokes and mirrors. Mm-hmm. That's a game that the Uhuru administration was playing. That you're claiming that you are subsidizing and cushioning the Kenyans at the pump, but in essence, what you're saying is you're trying to get money from the taxes to put into these prices, which was not forthcoming. So oil marketing companies, and there was a time when there were oil marketing companies even had an issue with it, forcing the Minister for Energy then to even come and force the deportation of our oil marketing manager. It's because the oil marketing companies were complaining. Over 70 billion shillings owed to them and was not forthcoming, and they were being forced to pass on this subsidy to the
But that
consumers.
complaint wasn't just with the oil marketers in the Uhuru era, it was also with maize millers.
Maize millers as well. There was the UNGA subsidy.
Yes.
That was called a subsidy. That UNGA was supposed to be at 100 bob. And we kept asking ourselves, where do you get the UNGA of 100 bob? CT went once to a supermarket.
I went several markets, several times, yes.
And found some.
There was an occasion I found some.
And then one occasion.
One.
And then many others, they didn't get others. Right?
Yes.
And then the millers to date say, for that, we were not paid.
I know there are pending bills. There are pending bills from the previous government, from this government. But as I said, it's not an illusion because the objective of cushioning the people was achieved and prices were kept low. But the pending bills might still be there. And I think that's something that needs to be pursued. But the objective of cushioning, when this government came in, they said, we shall not subsidize. But eventually, they also started subsidizing, by the way. When they're talking about stabilization, it was a way of subsidizing.
It is.
So any government must create safety nets for its people, particularly the vulnerable in our society. You owe them that. Okay, and President Uhuru was very sensitive to that. And we went through very difficult times. You remember, this is when COVID-19 hit. This is when we had drought, we had floods at the same time. We had the locusts, we had everything. Almost 10 plagues hit the country at the same time. But even then, you remember Uhuru actually reduced taxes in the midst of all that. But what are these fellows doing? They are increasing taxes. And this is what is affecting many Kenyans, particularly the vulnerable ones. Down there, the mamambogas, the border borders, those are the people they promised, the hustlers who will be lifted. But they are the ones who have actually borne the brunt of the harsh tax policies and the legislation that this government has introduced. So we might not have been perfect, but under the Uhuru administration, we tried to be sensitive.
Something
we tried
was,
to
something
create
was at least being done.
safety nets.
You
But
know,
these guys,
yeah.
they are not.
My issue, Mheshimiwa, usually with this conversation is I see and I agree,
Yes.
right, that it's important that we raise the questions that are live and we raise them at the point when they're live. Right now, we now ask the question, why must we raise the taxes this high? Why must we plan to spend 4 trillion shillings in a budget with the kind of economy that we are in? Why must we do this? Why must we continue with these programs if edible oil is a scandal, if G2G has been a scandal, if fertilizer is a scandal? We must raise these issues, right? We must raise these issues.
KNTC is the biggest scandal.
The edible oils one, yeah. All these scandals. If all these scandals are happening, we must ask questions. But I also look back and I ask myself, are they too disjointed, or are they disconnected, or are they the same? It's a continuation of one scandal that leads into another. And I say, we ask the questions from both you in your administration and this administration at present. Someone was telling me the other day, City, that, you know, it's like a homestead where the father has been taking loans and maintaining this high lifestyle in the family, taking them to expensive schools and buying meat, and they eat liver every day, and they, they don't even take cow milk. They take all these different milks and all this, you know, living the life. But they've been borrowing until the auctioneers come. And the wife, who's been enjoying and has been knowing what's been happening, starts complaining and saying, oh, no, it's your father. In fact, she raises a ruckus and moves out with the children and goes to another different place. Children, same school. Lifestyle, same. But now the mother is changing a couple of things here and saying, we must maintain our outward appearance. You must go to the same school. I must drive the same car and drop you to school in the same car. You must appear. But at home, they no longer eat liver. They're only having a meal a day. In fact, you have supper and you're told, bakisha kesho asubuhi, you know? So out there, you're living the same. Father, mother knew what they were doing, and they still know what they're doing. And mother is still borrowing now from Chama when father was borrowing from Sako. Mother is borrowing from Chama and all these other places to maintain a fake lifestyle. It's the same. Jubilee 1, Jubilee 2, Oda, Jubilee, hashtag, whatever.
It's why it's called conspicuous consumption. Because then, at the end of the day, there's something which Mima said though. Yes, during the COVID era, something very unique happened. Indeed, the Uhuru government actually understood the need of ensuring that the circulation of money in the system continues. So they eased off on taxes. In fact, the really, really strange thing, strange for this country, of course, the budget projection at that time, I think, was 2.1 trillion. We actually met it.
The revenue projection.
Yeah, we met it. Now, we've asked the question here, how does this government think that by squeezing the living daylights out of our finances, this economy is going to grow? When it's common knowledge, it's not even something that requires you to be very educated. You just need to understand. When there's more money in people's hands, that's how the economy grows. And they are hell-bent on minimizing it with every passing decision that they make. Is this something they understand that we don't understand about economics?
We don't understand it, City, and I think that's why many Kenyans are saying Ruto must go, and they can't. I think they've been, like any rubber band, they've been stretched to the snapping point. And for those young people to have actually stormed our parliament, they were outside parliament. The parliamentarians could hear them. They were the gates of parliament. Please don't pass this bill. And when the hour reached, I think it was almost, was it 3 or what time it was, and they arrogantly passed that bill. And what got out? Those kids went wild. They said, we are here, they can hear us, and they are still passing this bill. They breached the walls of Parliament and actually entered Parliament and entered the chamber and sat on the Speaker's seat. I think at that point, I think that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. There had been demonstrations. These bills go through stages: first reading, second reading, third reading. The people of Kenya were at the gates of Parliament when they passed, arrogantly. I think that is when all hell broke loose. And people get to a point and they say enough is enough.
Mheshimiwa, this is your opinion. What's the Azimio position?
Azimio, I think, as you know, we have our own challenges presently. I'm glad my brother Peter Munya was here. He talked very candidly about it. I can say, City, all is not well in the Azimio house. We cannot pretend that all is well because we went out to fight for Kenyans. We were on the streets with them. We suffered injuries. We lost lives. We pushed this government to repeal the Finance Bill 2020. They did not. They called us to talks in Bomas. And when we went to Bomas, they want to talk about everything else, creating the offices of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, creating the offices of Leader of Opposition with 2 deputies, more offices for women reps. And when it came to the real Wanjiku issue, cost of living, they refused. When it came to the issues of taxes, they said this is a no-go zone. And eventually, when the NADCO report was complete and we went through, and the cost of living issue had not been addressed, I was a dissenting voice in the team of 10. I refused to sign because we did not do justice to the single most important issue, which was cost of living. And I told them this will come back to bite us. And it came back in the form of the Gen Z. I think as Azimio, I still feel we let them off the hook at Bomas. We were lured into this dialogue it was really a trap to cool down the country, buy time, but they had no intention of addressing the real issues that took the people to the street. It was not about those offices. People didn't die for Mudavadi to get an office or for Raila to get an office. They wanted their lives bettered. And this was not achieved at Bomas.
Do you think
and this is why, had we, and I must say this, had we addressed this thing last year, our Gen Z children would not have come out. Had they not again arrogantly brought an even worse Finance Bill 2024, these lives lost, 75 lives last year, over 60 or 100 lives this year, would not have been lost. This was a preventable situation. And this is why we're saying the buck stops with Ruto. He must take responsibility. So for us as Azimio, to actually go into bed with Ruto, it is betrayal of the highest order. And this is why, as we sit here today, in Azimio, we said this yesterday in Thika in Kiambu County, I think we have reached a point of divorce. In a marriage, when grounds for divorce arise, one of those is when you have irreconcilable differences. When a marriage breaks down irretrievably because of infidelity, then the court grants that divorce. I think that is where we have reached, and we have disagreed as a matter of principle, because people are saying Okoa Kenya from Zakayo. But part of Azimio is saying to Okoe Zakayo. The two are irreconcilable differences, and that is where we have reached. I know Martha Karua has been here. She has already given her notice as NAC Kenya of quitting Azimio. Peter Munya is here. He has also given notice. Very soon, Eugene Wamalwa and DAP will give notice. But these are matters that we are now addressing. So, City, I can tell you, as Azimio, we have lost direction. And we must, we have sinned against the people of Kenya and fallen short of the glory. That is something I must say this morning to Kenyans. But we are doing something about it, and very soon you will hear from us.
You know what, Peter Munya was here last week. Yes. He's talked about various options. One of the options would be to see if you can reconcile as the unit that Azimio is. Another option would be that the individual parties then walk out. And he says he had wanted to walk out, but the leadership of PNU told him walking out alone doesn't serve the interest of PNU. You need to walk out. You need to work as a collective. So the other option is walking out as a collective. What do you think? Which of those three options sounds palatable to DAPK?
This morning I can say all options are on the table. But irreconcilable differences have a reason in the Azimio coalition. Because of the decision of one of our affiliate parties, ODM, agreeing to go into bed with Kenya Kwanza.
One partner has cheated.
Yes, and infidelity is really a ground for divorce. When we had Bomas, one of the principles was fidelity to multi-party democracy. William Ruto is an existential threat to our democracy. He's an existential threat to devolution. He started from day one cannibalizing the opposition. Azimio won the majority in parliament. We had almost 175 members of parliament. Before these members were sworn in, he started by buying off. We had UDM, almost 7 or so members, to crossover. Then he cannibalized Jubilee, took almost 26. They crossed over to his side. Then he went for ODM and took about 8 members of ODM. So when we were at Bomas, one of the main issues was the issue of fidelity to multi-party democracy and saying no to cannibalization over political parties and killing multi-party democracy in Kenya. And we said this must not be allowed. So for our colleagues in ODM, which had partially been cannibalized, to agree to be fully cannibalized by the same political cannibal is really something that we cannot understand ourselves. Because when you take the leader of ODM and support him to Addis, then you take his 2 deputy leaders into your cabinet.
And the chairman.
Then you take the national chair of that party into your cabinet. Then you take the leader of opposition himself, because the minority leader in our current setup is the leader of the opposition, into your cabinet. Then you have swallowed the entire leadership. You have actually swallowed that party. So to me, when you're talking about a government of national unity, there isn't anything like that. This was just completion of the cannibalization process of the opposition that William Ruto has achieved.
Mheshimiwa, I have to ask this question because it reminds me of something that African leaders like going on about colonialism. The colonialists did this, that's why we're where we are. Our police service was a police force in colonial times, that's why the way we are. Why is it that we never seem to learn from the colonial masters and do what they do well? If you have somebody who happens to be the chief executive and he is good at convincing people to join him, it shows that you people are not good at preventing him from getting your people to move towards him. So he's proving to be better at this thing. We may say it's not constitutional, we may say it's breaking the rules, we may say he's not playing cricket, but he has done it. And all that the opposition seem to be left doing is complaining that he has done it.
Without a gun to your head.
Yes, exactly. And you're all politicians. You're all politicians. How is it that there's no comeback to all this? Because he seems to be doing it. He's doing it. ODM is the big brother partner in Azimio. If I had to use your terms, it has been cannibalized. So, what is left of Azimio?
ODM is just one of the parties in Azimio. All the other parties have said no to joining Zakayo. The Democratic Action Party of Kenya held a National Executive Council meeting, and we took our position that we will not join Zakayo. NAC Kenya did the same. Wiper has done the same. Jubilee has done the same. And PNU, as Peter Munya said, was the latest party to say no. So where we have reached is to agree with our brothers that you cannot be on both sides of the aisle. You cannot be in government and be in the opposition at the same time.
So, have the other parties called for a meeting of Azimio?
Yes, we have, and that is why I'm saying we are in the process.
When is the meeting?
It is ongoing. Consultation started. We had a meeting last week, and the meetings are going on this week.
Was
So the
ODM
matter is going to
ODM
be...
part of the meeting?
ODM was part of the meeting. In fact, it's not the entire ODM that had actually agreed to go into government. You have heard of voices of reason, like Governor James Agri Bob Orengo. Orengo has been very categorical about this. So it is an internal issue which we don't want to interfere with. ODM is a democratic movement. We respect their democratic right to make decisions whichever direction they wish to go. But what we are saying is that you cannot be both in government and in the opposition. You cannot run with the hare and hunt with the hounds. You cannot do that. You can't be on both sides. So this is where we have reached, and I think we're in the process of seeing how that matter can be sorted out, or a divorce is effected between all the other parties and ODM in Azimio. So this will be made public very soon, but the processes are ongoing.
They are ongoing.
Yes.
What's the position of the Azimio Council Chairman, Uhuru Kenyatta?
I think he will be part of the ultimate meeting that will make that decision, and you will hear from him.
So far, what is his position? Because you see, many times people get angry with me when I say Azimio, and it's just like, nah, Kenya, rudderless.
Yes.
But now here we are. So the leader of Azimio has been quiet when all this has been happening. The candidate, the principal in Azimio, has blessed his people to go into government.
Yes.
The deputy has said we have walked out of Azimio. The other principals are the ones now who are making noise. What? Surely.
Where are we exactly?
Yeah.
We will be...
Why are we still talking about Azimio? Let's just
No.
close
The
the shop.
Azimio is still a coalition that is existing, and very, very soon a statement will be made as to the future of Azimio.
Has Uhuru called a meeting of Azimio?
That meeting is coming, and he is the chair. We will be able to hear from him and the entire council as to whether we remain in this marriage or we divorce. So that is coming. And all I can say this morning to Kenyans is that all is not lost. There are still those who believe in Kenya remaining a multi-party democracy and who will not fall into the trap of William Ruto killing multipartyism in this country. We do know City, as you have said, is a very shrewd politician, and his political mentor was none other than the professor of politics, Daniel Torotich Arap Moi. That's where he was mentored. And when you look at the moves he's making, and anafuata nyayo, this is how multipartyism was almost killed in Kenya. It was actually killed, and Kenya became a single-party state. William Ruto is setting the feet of this nation towards that by cannibalizing the opposition. And some of us are saying we will not allow it, even if it means parting ways with some of our present allies, as a matter of principle. That is where we stand. And I think it's Thomas Jefferson who once said that in matters of style, you can swim with the current. But in matters of principle, you stand like a rock. That is where we stand.
DAP-K party leader Eugene Wamalwa has been our guest. He says, ndoa imevunjika. That's basically it. 9 a.m. Good morning.